Namaste yogis. Welcome to your stop, drop, and yin class for sedentary warriors. Well, who's not a sedentary warrior these days, right? We have just sort of been mandated by this lifestyle of being seated or sitting. Whether that's for work or time spent on the road, our lives are just very sedentary. And so, thank God for yoga, so at least we can do some poses and have a practice that would counter any compression in the hips or any shortening or some stagnation in the upper body or even in the lower back. So this is a class that is perfect for those of us who have sat around for a long time but do not really necessarily have a lot of time to practice yoga. Hence, we will literally stop, drop, and yin. So for props, I have here a bolster, and if you don't have a bolster, feel free to grab your thickest, biggest pillow. I also have some 2 blocks, or if you don't have blocks, just grab something that's easy for you to rest your elbows on. Any other props are up to you. You can have pillows and all the blankets in the world. If you have any sensitive areas in your body and you need some cushioning, feel free to grab those, but we don't really need those in the practice. We're actually going to start here with our bellies down on the mat and with our feet up on the bolster or your pillow. So I want you guys to place your feet up first. Send your bellies down on the mat. Make a pillow with your hands. Place them underneath your forehead. And you can just lengthen the back of the neck and start gentle here. If you prefer, you can turn one cheek and rest it on top of your hands. And maybe to start, just lift your feet up and do a little bit of windshield wipers left and right, just to allow some movement in the lower back. Before we start here, maybe just a few more left and right. And then rest your feet on top of the bolster or your pillow. And feel free to just rest your forehead down as well. For me, this is more comfortable to turn my cheek today, so just do whatever feels good to you. Start to feel settled using the breath. Let's take a deep inhale through the nose. Open the mouth and slowly sigh it out. Inhale through the nose. Open the mouth and sigh it out. Last time, just like that. Inhale. And exhale, sigh it out. If you prefer to close your mouth in your next few breathing exercises, and you prefer to breathe in and out through the nose, just make sure to relax your tongue and relax your jaw best you can. And for those of you who have rested on one side of their temple or their cheek or their face, you can go ahead and turn to the other side. I'm going to stay right here so you can hear me. As you take those deep inhales, the expansion in the rib cage is going to naturally happen, but I want you to set some intention towards it. When you breathe in, it's almost like you're pushing the skin of your belly towards the mat, and since it has nowhere to go, it expands in the sides of the body. Even if you're counting or not counting your breaths, just use the breath to get into a more gentle place. 2 more just like that. Intentional inhales. Purposeful exhales. 1 more breath. And then exhale. And peel your forehead or your temples off of your hands and come into a nice Sphinx pose with your elbows rested underneath your shoulders, spreading your palms towards the mat. I want a little bit of engagement in the glutes to open up the fronts of the hip, which is the exact opposite motion when we're sitting, right? We are so compressed in our hip flexors, all the tissues in our hips, they can shorten, they can feel lazy, they can be weak. So right now, just feel some activity on those glutes, a little bit of nudging of your hips towards the mat, and just relax the back of your neck, relax your jaw. On your next exhale, drop your chin towards your chest. Try not to collapse on those shoulder joints. There is some activity in the arms, but you're not necessarily resisting gravity too much. You just want to stay upright. The spine kind of stays nice and long even though your head is bowed. Two more breaths in Sphinx. Inhale. And then exhale. Now just lower your head down for a little bit. Slide the hands underneath your shoulders, keeping your feet on the bolster or pillow. Slowly shift the hips back towards the bolster, and you already have your two blocks behind you. Rest your heads on the block. We're going to get into a half saddle position. So we want to open the fronts of the body here. So if resting your hands on the blocks and poking your elbows behind you just is not enough opening, you can rest your elbows down. Just free up the hands. And again, a little bit of activity in the glutes to help open up the fronts of the hip. Your choice where you want to look. You can look forward, which is fine. You can hang your head back, which is also okay. And it's totally up to you. You can even do both if that feels good to you. Breathe in your hip crease, to your hip crease. Send some intention towards it and send some attention towards that area in the body that otherwise feels tight, compressed. Feel free to remove the bolster if this is not in the cards today and do your own sort of version of saddle. Some of you may be all the way down on the floor. Some of you may be propped up a little bit more. And if you'd like, you can even place a blanket between your hamstrings and your calves if that feels good to you. A couple more breaths right here. Short and sweet class today, but not the breath. The breath stays sweet, but it's just not short. I'm going to hang my head back here in the last few breaths. Inhale. Exhale. And then you can palm those bolsters and pillows, slowly come up. Grab the blocks with you, sort of walk them towards the top of the mat and send your right foot forward. The blocks can be in their tallest phase. Palm the tops of those blocks and do a little bit of shifting left and right here before we get into our traditional dragon. Or if you don't practice a lot of yin, this is just a lunge. Some activity in the left glute to help open up the left hip. The muscles gotta talk to each other, right? They gotta integrate. And some muscles help other tissues and muscles open up. And that's it, that's the glutes. The glutes are hip extensors, so they help extend the hip. If this is good enough for you, then just stay right here. Some of you may wanna heel toe your foot out towards the edge of the mat, and then may perhaps flatten those blocks and come into your version of lizard pose. A bit of sensation here in the groin as well. Feel free to turn that toe outward if that is comfortable to you or if that feels better for you. Feel free to lose the blocks as well. There's also this sensation of like a cracking open or an unfolding or unraveling that's happening in the front of that left hip. And try not to distract yourself from it. In fact, give some attention to it and appreciate it. Inhale here. Exhale. One more time, inhale. And then exhale. Beautiful. Palm those blocks as you come a little bit upright. You can just lengthen that right leg. Again, you can use the blocks or you can lose it, totally up to you. Just notice that the blocks provide more support as they're closer to you, and they provide more sensation to the hamstring as they're farther from you. So you make the call. Inhale to lengthen the spine. Gotta make time for that. And then exhale, you find your fold, sending that right hip back, just lengthening the back of the legs. That sensation of cracking open that I talked about is happening in the belly of the hamstrings right now. Perhaps just 2 more breaths right here. We're sort of doing the optimal practice here because we don't have a lot of time, but we want to give it enough time and ample time so that we actually can tell the difference. On your last exhale, slowly release. Come up into a square lunge. We're going to sort of get out of the yin library of poses here and do a bit of a psoas stretch. You can keep the left foot on the bolster or your pillow. Again, some activity in the left glute to open up the left hip. Lift your arms up. Right hand grabs the left elbow and the left hand can just rest behind the neck or wherever it wants to rest. The chest may be open, but send your ribs in a little bit. And then shift forward. Send the hips to the left and then bend towards the right. A little bit of psoas stretch here. And sometimes when we hear these words like psoas stretch or hamstring stretch, there is a bit of a tendency to be aggressive or competitive. Like you have to get into the most maximum sensation and you got to get into 150%. Well, perhaps today you just feel the sensation and that's enough. You meet your body where it's at. Take a deep breath right here. Inhale. Exhale. And then slowly release. Let's recenter. Place the top of your right foot back. Place the blocks behind your bolster once again. This is just a short practice right here, or short pose. Again, if this is plenty enough, then stay right there. Otherwise, rest your elbows down and just take a nice 3 breaths. Look at the direction that feels good for you right now. It feels good to your neck, to your jaw, to your shoulders. Open up the front of the body, counteracting the compression and the shortness that we feel in the front body once we're seated. Exhale. Slowly release. Grab the blocks with you as you walk towards the top of your mat, finding that dragon or that lunge. Again, using the blocks to find your dragon. Your hands can be very well down on the mat. A little bit of shifting left and right. The activity is in the right glute. The sensation is in the right hip. No judgments here, right? No getting to that 150%. It's not a sprint. Come here to center and just enjoy this shape and just enjoy the pose. If your shoulder tends to lift up towards the ears, try to draw them back and try to just relax them. Perhaps just 2 breaths right here. And just a reminder, if you have sensitive knees or delicate knees, feel free to grab that blanket and pad your knees. If this is good for you, stay here. Otherwise, let's do that lizard. Heel toe your left foot towards the edge of the mat. Let the blocks come in its first phase, or just drop your elbows towards the mat. That's good too. Feel free to turn your left toes out or point them forward, whatever feels good to you. Sensation is going to be in the left groin and in front of the right hip. Try not to unnecessarily tax any other body parts that we don't really require to tax right now, and that would be the muscles in the head, the temples, the shoulders, or even the hands. So let just everything else relax. There's already plenty sensation going on. Make sure the back of the neck feels safe, neutral, and soft. Couple more breaths here. You guys feeling that unraveling and unfolding in the right hip? I definitely am. It's just been my tight side, and you know what? That's where the acceptance comes in. Last breath. Exhale it out. Release from this pose, please. You can bring the blocks with you as we get into those half splits. Palm the blocks. You can have them tall, medium, or on the short side. You can even lift your foot up or just plant them on the mat. Totally up to you. Bring some attention to the belly of the hamstring. Take your inhales. And as you exhale, just yield to this sensation. And try not to fight gravity. We also don't want to dump, right? So there is some integration happening. There is still a little bit of lift, but we just don't want to slump. So the spine remains nice and integrated, nice and long. The chest remains liberated. The jawline remains consciously relaxed. Like you're just making one wise decision at a time in your body to make sure that you get this optimal experience. Take your last breath, please. Exhale. Slide the left foot back and come into this square lunge. Some activity in the glutes already to help open up that hip. When you inhale to lift the arms, left hand grabs the right elbow. Just drop your right hand wherever it's comfortable. Shift the hip forward, right, and then lift up, eventually bending towards the left. That psoas muscle just has so many directions that it can go, and it's just not one direction to engage it and open it. We need to go forward and side and up and over. Soften the face. Last breath right here. Inhale. And exhale. And then slowly release. You can shake the arms. Nice job. We will get into our last pose here. So grab your bolster. Place it in the middle of your mat. We're going to get into a supported bridge. Now if this is too low, you need a little bit of lift, grab your blanket, grab whatever props you have. I'm going to set the block aside because I will not need it. And how I usually get in this pose is I would sit on the prop first, keep my legs bent, and then slowly slide my upper body down towards the mat. Make your necessary adjustments. Make sure your lower back is supported. Relax the back of the neck. Belly is relaxed as well. Hands can be on the side or on top of the belly, whatever feels good to you. I'm going to open up my palms here and even rest them on the bolster. Somehow that feels better for me. Find what feels better for you and what works for you today. We're doing the exact opposite of how we started. Now our backs are on the mat. Feel that shift of energy as we now are looking up towards the sky, towards the ceiling. Opening up the chest. It's a little bit of a vulnerable pose. We feel very open. So just notice that. Try not to judge that. And if anything is distracting you away from this moment, look at it like a cloud and let it pass by. And tell yourself, it will probably still be there after this practice, so I'll tend to it later. Right now, we're going to focus on what's happening in the here and now. If you want this to be your last pose, then stay right here for a couple more breaths. If you want a little bit of variation, you can lift your hips up. Just slide your bolster or pillow so you can rest your knees on top of it. And voila, you're just there. Two breaths right here. Last exhale, release. Set your feet on top of your bolster or pillow. Just take nice windshield wipers, maybe 2 on each side. More if you are just craving for it, totally fine. Do what feels good to you. But the next time you send your knees to the left, and if you're ready to get out of this practice, roll onto your left side. Gently push yourselves up with your right hand. Take a moment right here to just have a nice Sukhasana or easy seated pose. Palms together at heart center, thumbs are touching your chest, always connecting back to ourselves, and just dropping your head towards your hands. Take a nice few breaths right here. We will conclude this class with a smile. Please take time to bow down to your practice, to your inner teacher, your inner guru, your inner voice that told you, please stop sitting and just do this for a little bit. So thank yourselves, appreciate yourselves for making the time to have a healing practice, I hope. I always appreciate you guys coming here and sharing your practice. Please check out the rest of my other practices. I have a gamut of them. I have a lot. But for today, I'm grateful for your presence. Until next time, thank you, take care, and namaste.